if you have education, you can face anyone on the planet Earth. My house was destroyed by a mortar. And then my mother was crying. And my father said, "Don't cry. I have educated them, all of them, so they will do well."
ข้าพเจ้าเป็นลูกชาวนาพ่อแม่ก็บ่ฮู้หนังสือแต่ย้อนการศึกษาพาให้ข้าพเจ้าได้มีวิธีงานทำและสามารถเข้าสู่เวทีการเมืองได้แล้วก็ก้าวมาเป็นรัฐมนตรีศึกษาได้
UNESCO is the lead agency for education for all, which is the second Millennium Development Goal.
My country has only 10 years old. We have around 60% of our population still illiterate. We are now trying to make sure that by 2015, illiteracy could be eradicated in my country.
We need to do more for education. It's not a matter of privilege. It should be the right for all people to not only be educated, but also to acquire knowledge.
It's important not just for the development of the individual, but also for the development of the nation.
ผมจบการศึกษาในระดับประถมศึกษาในชนบทนะครับและแน่นอนไม่มีเครื่องมืออื่นใดที่จะเปลี่ยนแปลงคนให้คนได้พัฒนาและมีความเจริญรุ่งเรืองมีแต่เรื่องการศึกษาเท่านั้นจะเป็นเครื่องมือที่สำคัญนะครับ
Why everybody have the right to education? Because that's the only way to ensure everyone have a better life.
Education for all
is a human right.
It is our responsibility.
Welcome back to Asean Newsroom, and here are the economic news. Caretaker Prime Minister Apisit Wetchachiwala said on Monday that Thailand will host next year's World Economic Forum on East Asia. Apisit said during the conclusion of the WEFEA on Monday in Jakarta that the King and the people of Thailand are inviting you to come to Thailand as your business partner. Thailand is economically strong and firm and therefore deserves to play host to the meeting of businessmen. The countries need to sit together formally and discuss the balanced and the sustainable global economic order. He said there is the G20, but this was only created to respond to the recent crisis. He added that as a new economic power, the voice of ASEAN needs to be heard. The WEF Asia Director Sushrend Palakuthi Rao said it was vital for the business world that governments and people continued growing and developing. He continued that the ASEAN Connectivity Scheme is an example of cooperation and integration between different cultures. He expressed appreciation for the support of all parties in making the 20th WEFEA meeting in Jakarta a success.
Inflation in China hit its highest level in 34 months despite the government's efforts to rein in high prices. Consumer prices in China rose by 5.5% in May compared with the same month last year, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Food prices continued to be the biggest factor as they surged by 11.7%. The rising cost of food and commodities have pushed up the cost of living and become a hot political issue in China. Analysts warned that prices are likely to rise even further. For now, it seems certain that China's CPI will hit 6% in June, said Xue Biao of China Merchants Bank. Chinese authorities have said that fighting rising prices is a top priority for them. It has set a target of keeping the inflation rate at 4% for the year. The country's central bank has raised interest rates 4 times since October last year in an effort to curb lending and rein in rising prices. Analysts said that the latest data is likely to force the bank to raise the cost of borrowing once again. The analyst said CPI reached a new record, increasing concerns of another interest rate rise. And he expected the central bank to raise interest rates next week. Well, inflation is a particular concern in fast-growing economies across Asia.
India wholesale prices rise faster than estimated 9.06% from a year earlier. India's inflation exceeded analysts' estimates, adding pressure on the central bank to extend the fastest round of interest rate increases among Asia's major economies. Bond yields and the rupee gained. The Commerce Ministry said in a statement in New Delhi yesterday that the wholesale price index rose 9.06% from a year earlier after an 8.66% jump in April. The median estimate of 22 economists in a Bloomberg News survey was for an 8.74% increase. The Indian economy may be overheating and further rate rises are warranted, Nouriel Roubini, co-founder and chairman of Roubini Global Economics LLC, said yesterday, as well as calling for similar action in China. The Reserve Bank of India may boost borrowing costs June the 16th for the 10th time since mid-March 2010, 15 of 17 economists in a Bloomberg News survey said.
The Bank for Agriculture and Agricultural Cooperatives proposed to the next government the creation of a stabilization fund for agricultural prices as an option for the sector. The bank has studied the possibility of setting up the fund aimed at helping farmers cope with price volatility. Bunchui Chai Damrongchai, Executive Vice President of the BAAC, said yesterday. The scheme could be a complement to existing measures such as income guarantees for farmers or other schemes proposed by the political parties, he said. Economists from Kasetsart University yesterday formally presented the results of a study on support for the sector to the bank's executives and staff. According to the research, previous price intervention schemes by government had damaged market mechanisms, resulting in high costs for taxpayers and widespread corruption among the parties involved. It also said the income guarantee scheme implemented by caretaker Prime Minister Abhisit Vejjajiva government since 2009 had been criticized by farmers on the ground that they received only a small amount of compensation. The research team led by Bodin Rasa Meethed, Dean of the University's Business Administration faculty, proposes that the government, farmers, or both parties should create an agricultural price stabilization fund. If farmers themselves were to set up the fund, they would have to pay contributions during the boom years when enjoying high prices for their output, but would receive compensation in depressed years. Such a scheme would not cost the government anything. However, farmers who are used to government support programs of one sort or the other are unlikely to participate in such a scheme, the researchers said.
A study says nearly half of the fish eaten around the world now comes from the farms instead of the wild, with more foresight needed in China and other producers to limit the ecological impact. The World Fish Center, a non-governmental group that advocates reducing hunger through sustainable fishing, and environmental organization Conservative International, found that 47% of food fish came from aquaculture in 2008. The study stated that China alone accounted for 61% of the world's aquaculture, a significant part of its carb, which is highly demanding in resources, and Asia as a whole for some 90%. Aquaculture has long been controversial, with some environmentalists concerned about the pollution to coastal areas. But the study argued that aquaculture was not as destructive as raising livestock such as cattle and pigs, which places severe strains on land and water use and is a major source of climate change. The study found wide variations between countries, giving hope that the sharing of bad practices could limit the impact on the environment. In one striking comparison, the environmental impact of shrimp and prawn farms in China would decline by up to 60% if they used the same energy levels as those in Thailand. Researchers have now called for further study on how supermarket chains, particularly in emerging Asian nations, can improve environmental performance in the farmed fish they bring to consumers. The study was released days after the United States, a comparatively small player in aquaculture authorized guidelines that would open up some federal waters to fish farms. The plan was attacked by some environmentalists who said it would bring waste perilously close to people and may depress market prices.